You're listening to the Prospect Blueprint, exclusively on twoadays.com, the #1 source for college coach reviews and ratings, as well as recruiting tips and resources for college athletes. Have a coach you'd like to leave a review for or research before you make an expensive decision? Only at twoadays.com. Hello and welcome to the Prospect Blueprint. This webcast is for prospects, coaches, and those who support those prospects so they best understand what it takes to get to the next level, whatever that next level might be. As usual, my battery mate is Mr. Rick Dempsey, 24-year MLB vet and fan favorite with the Twins, Yankees, Orioles, Brewers, the Cleveland Indians, now known as they're always going to be known as the Indians to me, but they're the Guardians. They're not playing too bad a ball, although they lost today. And of course, the Dodgers. He's the 1983 World Series MVP for the Baltimore Orioles. He has a special announcement and a special guest today. Folks in the Baltimore area, pay attention. Rick is back in a big way. Hi, Rick.
Hi, Kel. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Who do we have today? Who is this guy? Who do we have today? We have a special guest.
I know. I'm very excited to have him on our show because he has somehow managed to make baseball a big business around Baltimore. I'm very impressed with just about everything that he has done in and around, because I know dealing with kids is not easy. Organizing a business. I mean, I know baseball, but I do not know the business of baseball. Matt knows baseball very well. He teaches very well. And he also has a tremendous business. He actually has a couple of different warehouse properties, and he's excited and really brought in a lot of people around Baltimore, and I'm happy to be involved with him. He's invited me to be part of his baseball warehouse. We're opening up another facility out in the Columbia area. Matt's got pretty much control of that because he knows we don't want to make any mistakes early on at opening this baseball business and get behind the 8 ball before it gets started. Well, he knows all of the loopholes that we need to cover. And so I'm very excited to welcome to our show Matt Morris from Baltimore. Matt, welcome to Now the Warehouse here.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. First of all, Kel, I'll ask him the first question. And I got to go back to your own personal professional baseball career. How did you get involved in baseball yourself? And I know that you signed a professional contract for a while. And how did that go?
Yeah, so I actually I grew up outside of Baltimore, a place called Reisterstown. You go through the ringer there, just working out. Actually, one of your old teammates, Larry Sheets, had a place, and he was actually one of my inspirations for doing this. I just thought it was really cool the way he was with us, running camps, doing private baseball lessons, having facilities. And one thing people don't factor in this in California that you factor in here is, weather's a big issue in the winter. You can't go out and long toss in December or January like you can maybe in California or some of these warmer states to go get your arm in shape. So facilities in the Mid-Atlantic are very important for players, not just high school guys, but the college guys who come home on break and the professional guys that are in town. But I played independent ball, bounced around a couple of different leagues, had some opportunities, some injuries, some underperforming, all of that stuff. And then, you start to get into that mid-20 age and you're killing yourself to try to make $800 a month playing. And, you're just starting to see the writing on the wall that it's just not going to happen. So one thing I always wanted to do after baseball, I thought I was going to have 24 years in the big leagues and then get into it. But, when you realize that, it's just not going to happen, you move into other, baseball's in my blood, it's not leaving anytime soon. So I don't want to go do insurance, or I don't want to go do, selling cars or managing, financial places, and no disrespect to people that do that, but it's not my thing. So I made a lot of contacts though when I played. So when I was playing independent ball, Calvin Maduro scouted me when he was with the Orioles. You work out with, Juan Padilla was a guy I would long toss with in the offseason. He was a big league pitcher. So all of a sudden, yeah, you don't make it in baseball, but you make contacts. And I reached out to a couple guys and said, hey, look, if I get this thing going, if I start putting some camps together and I buy a facility and we start providing lessons and we build a website, are you guys in? And they all said, yeah. So we started out with one 2,000 square foot facility. We had one mound, we had one cage. It was me, Jimmy Crowley, Terry Crowley's son, got up to AAA with the Orioles, Clemson, All-American, a couple of years, and then Sammy Snyder was the bullpen catcher, and Val Majewski had a little cup of coffee with the Orioles back in '04. It was all of us, and we just started slowly, putting on some camps, putting on some clinics, and what was unique was, it was, hands-on training with professional players, and many of which were at the major league level. So, that's kind of the premise of what we do is, most of the kids that are getting lessons, and it's by no means a knock to guys that didn't play at the major leagues, but it's very special being able to come in and get a clinic or a lesson with a Rick Dempsey or a Mike Bordick or a Calvin Maduro, because you guys you learn from Thurman Munson. So, you're able to basically, when you're working with Rick Dempsey, you're also working with Thurman Munson, and I think, Scott McGregor was a big mentor of mine. Scott's a guy, I quote his teachings every day. So whereas you're working with me, in a way you're working with Scott McGregor at the same time. Obviously I'm not Scott McGregor, but I'm telling you the same things, the same drills, the same methodologies that he would as if he was standing right there working with you.
Well, Matt, in general, can you tell us, how you made the baseball warehouse so successful? That's one of the most impressive things about you. If you have endured, you put the work together, you stay on top of the people, you're very well organized. Tell me how you managed to make this baseball school, let's call it a school, so successful. And you've been great through twice. You've opened 2 times.
Yeah. Well, just chipping away. I mean, it's just like anything else. You start with one camp, it evolves to 2, it evolves to 3. Getting more people involved was huge. But really, as I told you a while back, I mean, you've got to be 6 months ahead. Like right now, we're doing all of our summer camps and programming, but we're working on our winter programming. And, you have to have, high level people, like I said, guys like you, guys like Mike Bordick, guys like Jim Duquette, all of you guys, I don't want to say you make it easy to promote and put it out there, but it's definitely enticing when, you can attend a local high school catching camp or you can attend a Rick Dempsey catching camp. Same thing with pitching camps and private instruction. But the main thing is being 6 months ahead of everybody, but also kind of divide and conquer. So what I mean by that is we don't just stay in one area. We'll go up to, like tomorrow, we have a camp in Hershey, Pennsylvania. On Tuesday, we have a camp in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and Brian Baker is coming to Red Lion, Orioles pitcher, for a pitching camp.
Right.
Wednesday, we have Anthony Sanders and Jose Hernandez coming to do a skills camp, and we have a showcase the same day. And then Thursday, we're going up to Reading, the Phillies AA affiliate, to do a camp. So we've got 6 camps in 4 days. But all of a sudden, you're hitting 300 players over a 4-day span. And if you do a good job, I think that's the most important part. Just do a good job. When you're at the camp, make sure that the information is good. Make sure it's organized. Make sure the instructors are engaged and locked in, because if the kids enjoy it, they're going to come back every time.
Yeah. Kel, you want to chime in here, please?
Sure. I've got some interesting questions here for you. And obviously parents are going to want to know what target ages is the facility for, and your camps? Is it for high school, middle school, or the little guys, the 6-year-olds and above?
Yeah, so we hit every. I mean, we're 6 years old to major leaguers. I mean, we have major leaguers that come in and work out in the off seasons. We throw on BP. Obviously, they're on their own routines. They come in just, hey, what do you need? Sometimes they just need to do their workout and their bands and their T work, and they don't need anything. And then some days they need, side toss flips, BP, ground balls, and they need you for a while. But ideally, you want to get the kids as early as you can. But I always tell people it comes down to what your schedule is and what your finances are. You don't need a private lesson every week, but if you can afford it and you want to do it every week, we're not going to run out of stuff to go over. I always tell them we're never going to run out of stuff. But so camps are geared more towards 6 to 13. And then showcases are geared more 14 to 18. Private instruction is geared towards any age. We do a lot of coaching clinics, a lot of, free camps because, as you know, some of this, gets a little pricey and some people don't have the financial means to come to these camps or come to these types of events. So we're actually working with, a couple of different organizations on creating a couple of grants to get these kids to come to events that otherwise you wouldn't be able to, because you hate to see guys not get opportunities because of money, especially the guys that really work and really love it.
Car dealerships are awash with money. They're the perfect source for NIL capital, actually, believe it or not.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Quick heads up on that one. Talk about curriculum. What kind of curriculum do you have there? Obviously, pitching, infielding, hitting, and then also what kind of equipment do you have? Do you have all the latest metric measuring Rapsodos and such?
Yeah, so as far as the lessons go, I mean, it's pretty it's funny. Mike Bordick, Oriole Hall of Famer, when he started doing lessons a couple of years ago, he said like, hey, what are the progressions? How should I work with a 12-year-old? And I said, well, Mike, how would you get ready for a game? He goes, well, T work, front toss, BP. I said, well, there you go. So, our methods are, hitters, it's teaching them routines. I think these players need to learn, just the importance of understanding the fundamentals, understanding the mechanics, and then, developing routines. And each kid's a little different. But, for example, kids will come in and, they'll rush through their balance point. And coaches are constantly screaming, hey, don't rush, or hey, stay back, or hey, do this, or hey, do that. And what you learn is when you talk to the kids, though, and you ask them, hey, what does that mean, rushing through your balance point? Hey, what does that mean, stay back? You start to realize that they don't actually know what it means. And you have to explain those things to where fundamentally they now understand, hey, when you're rushing, when you hear your coach rushing, say, hey, stop rushing. It ultimately just means get to your balance point. Your arm's not going to catch up. You're going forward before you get to your balance point. So the lessons are my favorite. That's what started this whole thing, because I think the lessons are where you can really tailor things and really have that one-on-one time with players, and teach them the finer points and really, help them make adjustments. If they're having a hard time this week hitting curveballs, or if their changeup stinks in a game, you can really kind of hone in on that with them and tweak some things. As far as the facilities, I mean, we have different. I mean, we have a 40,000 square foot facility in Pennsylvania, and then we have 5,000 to 8,000 square foot facilities outside of Baltimore. My whole business model, I don't like the space model. I think a lot of people, they get too much space and then they can't, cover the cost. But I also look at it as, you don't need a lot of space if Mike Bordick's teaching you how to play infield. You don't need a lot of space if Rick's teaching you how to catch, or Calvin Medora is teaching you how to pitch. So our model is more who's teaching your kids and who's teaching these players versus, hey, we have a ton of space, come use it. Because when it's 92 degrees outside in July and all you've got is space, nobody's coming over. So as far as technology, we're getting into pitch logic. We've been talking with Kurt Berkins, former Oriole pitcher, about incorporating that and spin rate. we definitely want to enhance that. Calvin, when he gets back, he's with the Twins right now, and he gets back, he wants to do Rapsodo and add, that into pitching programs and things like that. So I don't know a ton about it. I don't want to say that I'm old school or not open to it, but I definitely understand the importance of it today. So being able to have a major league pitcher teach you how to pitch, but then also be able to see all the different things that Rapsodo and pitch logic can do is definitely beneficial. But at the end of the day, I mean, I just believe make your pitch and you'll be all right.
Yeah. So for the smaller facilities, you'll have like multiple pitching lanes. You'll have more than likely you'll have some iron mics. You'll have some places where you could obviously some lanes where you could manually toss batting practice. You're right. That's really all you do. You could get a lot done with 8,000 square feet, by the way.
Well, like this morning, we had Ryan Ripken in here all morning, doing lessons, and Pat Smith, he was a lefty with the Kansas City Royals in their minor league system. So, but it's every day. I mean, we're 3-4 lessons. We're 3-4 instructors deep every day. I mean, we're 30 to 40 lessons in the quote unquote slow season. And I mean, we're up to 60 to 70 lessons a day in the peak season. So, and the other thing I left out is, one of the main reasons I started the baseball warehouse is I saw a lot of guys, retire from professional baseball, whether it was major leaguers or affiliated minor league guys or independent league guys, and they didn't have any other options to stay in baseball. There were no coaching gigs, and high school and college, they don't pay a tremendous amount of money, so it's hard to stay in some situations. So what I wanted to do was provide opportunities for guys who, do have the desire to teach and stay in the game, but also do need to, make income. I mean, we have guys making, very good, livings doing this, but, they do it the right way. They have the backgrounds, they have the teaching methods, they have track records of developing players. They weren't just ex major league players. They've got a good track record of guys coming through the system and developing as well. So that was a big piece for me was I was seeing guys that had no business teaching baseball, beating out a guy who played 5 years in the big leagues, but because that guy has a better marketing program or that guy has a better social media presence, kids are working with him instead of a guy that actually knows what he's doing. So it's important to take care of these former professional players as well. And I know that's something Rick's looking forward to doing, is getting some of his old teammates out to help, because really what it does is the kids get to work with major leaguers. The business makes money. The instructor gets some time to come out and make some money, meet some fans, talk to kids, and give their 2 cents on what they should be doing. So it really is a good formula.
Matt, I wanted to just say that, I know you stay very busy in this business because it's not easy to get in touch with you all of the time because you are, no, like you say, you're 6 months ahead. You're thinking 6 months ahead all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what I appreciate about being involved with you in this business. The baseball warehouse is very knowledgeable. You know what you're doing. Tell me a little bit about maybe some of the mistakes that happened to you early on that you've been able to overcome over the last couple of years.
I think I trusted too many people early on because I didn't have, because my intentions were good. I just assumed everybody else's intentions were good. And, as I'm sure, that's not necessarily the case. And then, I think another thing, not necessarily if I could go back and do it again, but, I just think that I wish, because I'm good with money and I'm organized and things like that, I just kind of assumed everybody else was the same way. And I've learned, that's not the case, but I wish I would have gotten some, I wish I wouldn't have waited as long to get like administrative help more. That, like, I've always had accountants. I've always had, like business planners and board,
Right.
but just people to call people back, people to, and what I mean by that is that we have people that call people, but it was just, I was doing everything. I was calling people back. I was doing lessons. I was doing camps. I was coaching teams. I was running coaching clinics, to where you really get to a point where you don't have much of a life. All you're doing is work, 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 work. And it's fine because it's baseball. But at the same time, I wish, maybe I would have gotten some help from some people early on. And
Right.
then the other thing I learned is, you can't, well, not necessarily learn, maybe mistake. You can't convert every ex Major League Baseball player into a business person, or into a
Coach.
just a person that understands, just a person that understands, because you're dealing with kids, you're dealing with families, and no matter how good you are, there is a customer service aspect that you have to have, even if we all know, hey, this is BS. Like, we still have to address it. You still have to deal with it. But partially, we don't get a lot of those types of complaints because, again, I hate to say it, if Mike Bordick can't teach your kid how to field a ground ball, I mean, there's not a much better guy in the world that could teach your kid how to field. So, you just, having great instructors protects us, protects me. It's going to protect, Rick and his name and his reputation, that when you go to Rick Dempsey's facility in Columbia, you're learning from Ryan Ripken, you're learning from Calvin Maduro, you're learning from Al Bumber, you're learning from the best players and the best teachers in the area. And, it really puts it back on the players and the families. And I think that's important. It's tough to do that because people pay money and they expect results, but you can't question the instruction when it's those types of guys. You got to put the time in and put the work in at some point as well.
Yeah.
Matty,
And
is
then,
some
hey,
of your strategy, is that have to do with the internet and social media? Is that some of the things that you've really gotten good at?
yeah, I mean, you have to. I mean, me personally, I don't have any social media, but I've learned the importance of it through the business. Just because, look, that's what the kids are into now. That's so. If kids are playing baseball and that's what they're into, you better have a presence. So I mean, we put out, our flyers, our events, updates on our player. Like Spencer Horowitz just got his made up to the major leagues last week with the Blue Jays. You do a shout out to him. You put up, skills videos and tips for players to work on, just basic drills, off a tee, or off the wall, or thrown into a net. So you definitely need, if you're not doing social media, if you're not doing, newsletters and constantly updating your website, I mean, you're going to fall behind. And it's interesting because when you look at some of these, failing baseball facilities or sports facilities, you get on there, you get online, their website looks like it's from 1999. They don't have any social media, things like that. I mean, Rick, with your stuff, I mean, when you put something out, people go crazy, but that engages them to now, hey, wow, Rick's opening a place in Columbia, and now they're going to track, and follow the build out of the facility and the grand opening, and who's coming to sign autographs and who's coming to do clinics. And that's how people interact today, whereas back when, I don't know how they interacted when you were a kid. I guess, I guess phone calls, but when I was a kid, there was, AOL and the phone and stuff like, but now I mean, there's 100 different ways to reach people and, get your message out. But, yeah, it's definitely a huge piece. And that's what I'm saying. You can have the best instructors, but if you're not getting it out there to the right people the right way, it really, it doesn't matter, because people aren't going to know about it. And then, that's, again, though, that's a frustration that you have is, you'll see a guy, and don't get me wrong, a lot of people teach the game differently, but, they're still right and wrong. And I just think a lot of people, I don't want to say are making stuff up, but they're making things much harder than they need to be. I think the more simple you keep it, the easier it's going to be for players to retain it and do it. But I also think if you can't make something simple, you don't know it well enough to be teaching it. And I think, though, these kids will come in and they'll show me this drill, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And they show me that like they pull it up on an Instagram account that's got like 800,000 followers, and I'm just like, well, that's not, that's not a drill you want to do. But the kids see, the more followers or the more likes or the more views that something has, that there's a legitimacy to that, which, it's not always a good thing, because, just because something's viewed or just because someone has a lot of followers doesn't necessarily mean that they're great at teaching baseball. It means that they're great at market. So you got to kind of find that happy medium between, marketing people, and we have marketing people, so I don't deal with it as much. I just kind of, hey, yeah, that looks good, let's do it, or hey, I don't like that. So, because that's the one thing you always have to stay true to, your core beliefs as a baseball player, coach, person. So, I don't want to, I'm not going to do something against my beliefs to get a million followers, so you got to stay true to that as well.
Well, I don't think you have to do anything against your beliefs to get a million followers. I think
Yeah.
just having really good advice. I'll give you an example. We don't have a million followers. Actually, Rick and I on our podcast, we only have at this point like 523 followers, but we're not really shooting for that followership. We're shooting for video views, and our number one video has gotten 67,500 views, which is where right now we're probably averaging 50 to 60,000 views per month, and it's going up. So you need to be a little bit controversial and a little
Yeah.
polarizing to get a Twitter following. I just want the kids to see it. I just want them to get valuable information, and I think you're probably in the same boat. Let's give you the stuff that's tried and true. So let's talk about something here, because you're in a position there, I think, to probably expand on a concept that Michael Garcia Parra started. And Michael's a friend of the show. He's been on. And what Michael does basically is he has a tournament team. It's not really travel ball. It's a tournament team where they go to select tournaments with some of their better players. It's usually some of the bigger showcases, but they mostly play against each other and within their own organization, because it's a college preparatory program. So they don't have a ton of practices because, frankly, I don't believe they have all the facilities, nor do they have indoor facilities that you do. So that's something that you do have. But what you also have and so what you do have, they don't have. But what you don't have, they do have. And that would be the ability to create these teams, these college preparatory programs where you get kids from, let's say, right out of middle school, high school age, let's even go as low as 13 up to 17 years old, and be able to prepare them for the college game, which is radically different than travel ball or certainly pony or little league, anything like that. Of course, it's the next level up. So you've got a huge an opportunity there. And I do believe that they have about 550 players who pay about $250 a month doing this right now. So you can do the numbers on that. I think you guys have a great opportunity to be able to maybe do something with that model. So that's just a quick heads up on that one.
So we do have teams. Teams, you love certain aspects of teams, and then other aspects are frustrating. I think the one thing about the teams is, when you're in a lesson or you're in a camp or you're in a coaching clinic or you're running a showcase, we as instructors control that. And then all of a sudden, when you go out and you let the kids play, and they're making errors or they're not hitting the ball, and it doesn't necessarily translate in the game to what they're practicing, I do think sometimes people question, well, hey, are you teaching the right way, or is my kid learning the right side? It's like, the answer is yes, but my question is, did your kid throw a baseball in the last 3 days? Did your kid hit in the last 3 days? And usually the answer to that is no. Mostly the only confrontation that we get, from clients or players, it's team related. We people who take lessons are never, they're always happy. They're never unhappy with anything. In camps, we get nothing but rave review. And I think what's tough about the teams is, even when you win, people are going to be, well, I'm a shortstop. They got me playing left field, and if you lose, oh, well, we're bad, or we're not getting this, we're not. So you just, I'm careful with, we don't want to have too many teams because we don't want to water things down either. You know what I mean?
Well, that's that. I think the concept. I understand that 100%. That's the concept. I think that Mike has. It's you play, amongst each other, so you can correct those errors on
Yeah.
the field. You're there in real time, and you can make the adjustments, as opposed to getting into a travel situation where stuff like that could befall a team or a player, and they lose confidence, and it actually detracts from the overall program that they're involved in. So I'm just throwing that out there, but I understand your
No,
point.
I think it's a great concept.
Yeah. Then I do have a question in regards to I've got a couple questions. We haven't talked about costs yet, but I won't go there quite yet. I do want to find out a little bit more about the recruiting components. How long has the baseball warehouse been in business?
Since 2012.
Oh, long time. So
Yeah.
talk to me about the recruiting that you do for players, if that exists whatsoever. Do you have
Oh, yeah.
video? Do you help them find a school? How does that work?
So our head coach, or our team's director, was a Division I head coach for 23 years, Scott Thompson. He's been with us for 3 years now. So, he's got a lot of contacts. Between all of us, we have a lot of contacts. So ultimately, we don't have a recruiting service. What we do, we'll host 3 showcases a summer, and we get our 15, 16, 17, 18s. They tell us what schools they want to come, and then we target those schools to come. We'll have a controlled pro workout in the morning, and then a scrimmage in the afternoon, where the pitchers throw 20, 25 pitches. So guys get the opportunity to do, the controlled setting workout, and then they get the opportunity, if they didn't work out hot, that's okay. They go out and get a couple knocks in the game, all is forgiven. And as you know, some coaches like to see them in a controlled environment. Some coaches like to see them in a live environment, and this gives them the opportunity to do both. But basically, if you come through our program, our Badgers program, we will help you with the recruiting as part of it. Because it's really not, it's not as complicated as people make it out to be. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely hard parts of the recruiting process. But look, a kid that throws 73 miles an hour, who's a junior in high school, you don't need to worry about getting recruited. We tell him, you need to go get stronger. Let go. Here's the strength coach. You don't need to go to the showcase. Here's strength coach. Go see him. And then, guys who do have the ability, it's our job to then try to get the coach out to see them or get the schedules to them, because going to a showcase where there's 20 coaches is great. But if you don't want to go to any of those schools, or you're not good enough to go to any of those schools, or you're too good, I don't mean that in a nasty way. I just mean, you're throwing 92 and getting recruited by, a ton of programs, and it's just a bunch of small school. You've got to try to bring the right fits to your players. A lot of our guys are D3 guys. They come in with D1 aspirations, I think, like everybody, but then they get out and they start playing, and they see where they are, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with playing Division III baseball, and I try to get them to understand that, especially today. Everything's just so dang on competitive. There's D3 schools that can, beat D1 schools in a heartbeat.
What's the cost to get involved with the facility?
So we have private instruction. Everything's a different cost. Our camps, our day camps are 50 to 75 a day, based on, who we have coming out. Some people you just have to pay a little more. Some people you have to, like, we have Jose Canseco coming out in a few months. Like Jose, he's doing a 1-day skills camp, and then he's doing a home run derby. But I got to pay for Jose's flight. I got to put him in a hotel a couple of nights, so that obviously factors in the cost of things. I think sometimes people overlook that, but private instruction is, 65 for a half hour and 130 for an hour. And, I have a good split with our coaches, they make a good cut off of that hour. But again, they're motivated to come in, and they do a great job. So I think they're worth every penny of it. The week-long camps are $250. And our teams are 1,800, $2,000, $2,500. And, it's based on as they get older, you incorporate more services. And, that's a little frustrating because, the cost of the tournaments are just, they're sky. I mean, we're
Yeah.
paying so much money to play in these tournaments. And then I'm just like, man, we dropped $2,000 to play in a tournament. And, we played 3-hour, 50-minute games. We didn't even get through, 5 or 6 innings. And, we're at a local high school. So, we get vilified for the cost, but, everybody wants to do the tournaments at the same time. So it's like, do the math on 8 tournaments and, $2,500 dues and that's $16,000. I mean, that's half your money coming in for the team is just to pay for tournament costs. That's not factoring in, facilities or insurance or equipment or coaches or specialized instruction. So, I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into running a team. And we actually have fields now. We bought a couple of the fields, and, we're getting clay mounds and clay batter's box and new scoreboards and new batting cage. And it ain't free. So I think the cost of the teams, I think, sometimes people don't always factor in the back end costs, salaries. We have a Division I head coach, 23 years, is our full-time teams director. I mean, I got to pay him. So, so there's a lot of different, the costs are all, a little different because the services are all a little bit different. But as long as you tell your instructors, for example, they get a certain pay scale for hourly instruction. And then when they go out to camps, they get a flat rate for the day, which doesn't equate to what their hourly rate is, but it's still good. And they're ultimately getting out in front of 50, 60 kids to go out and get in front of to potentially get more lessons, so they're basically getting paid to essentially build their schedule and build their book.
What separates the baseball warehouse, and certainly what is going to separate Rick Dempsey's baseball warehouse from the competitors that are out there? Because there's bound to be at least a handful.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. Just who's there. I mean, like I said, somebody asked me that a long time ago. I actually used Scott McGregor as the example. Why should we go here versus there for lessons? And I said, well, because when you walk in the facility and Scott McGregor says, this is how you hold a curveball, this is how you throw a curveball, that's how you do it. There's not it's tried and true. It works. And, not only did he do it at the major league level, he did it as a minor league coach. People forget he was a minor league coach for almost 20 years. So he developed a lot of big league pitchers in the minor leagues as well. But it's just tried and true. It works. The instruction is second to none. And the instructors care. We've had a couple ex-big league guys that we brought in, just kind of go through the motions and say, hey man, this isn't going to work. So, our guys are locked in, and, they're teaching methods and ability to, work with 8-year-olds and 18-year-olds is there. They got good personalities. They're good with the parents. They're good with communication. Just all of the things that you expect as a parent when you're paying for a service for your kid.
Sure.
Let me throw this in here while you're on that subject, Matt, is that one of the things I really loved about joining you in a couple of your camps was that you brought us in to talk to the parents, not just the kids, but to teach the parents, what to look for in their own child and how to help them put whatever we teach them together to make them better players. And I thought that was outstanding because the kids weren't part of that program. That was just parents. And those are the parents who really cared about seeing their kids improve, and probably took a lot of heat off you when they wanted to come to you and say, well, he's not hitting, he's not fielding, he's not, he's not catching the ball, he's not throwing the ball, or whatever that is. Well, you have to explain the game of baseball to these parents, and who better than to get a bunch of ex-major league guys out there who've done it their whole life from the time they were 8 years old on. And it takes a lot of time really to get this down and to understand it. And your program has really done it the best I've ever seen of any of them.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. It's important because, what I always tell, and there was one other thing when you said, what are some mistakes I made along the way? One of the other ones was I assume everybody loves baseball the amount of that I do, and that's not true. You assume because I love it, this guy loves it as much as I do, and a lot of parents are only interested in baseball because their kid is interested in baseball. If their kid was interested in swimming, they'd be going to swimming meets every week. Or if they're interested in lacrosse, they'd be going to lacrosse every week. So they don't really have the understanding of like I said, what it takes to be a competitive player at either a high school or a college or a professional level. So, like you said, I like bringing guys like you in, Bordy, Jim Duquette, and what I think is really good for the players to hear. And obviously, Mike's local, so he gets out, in the schools and talks a little bit more, and that's stuff we're going to get you involved in. Everybody just assumes Rick Dempsey, you played 24 years in the major leagues. Mike Bordick, you played 14 years in major league. It just came to you. It was just a natural thing. You didn't face adversity. You didn't get cut from teams. You didn't get released. You didn't get, booed out of the stadium. And it couldn't be farther from the truth. Mike talks about he got cut from, high school teams. He got cut from middle school teams 3 times. He signed as a free agent. He wasn't drafted. You've talked about you were, very small for a professional level. You next to Thurman Munson, you're much smaller. So just the things you had to overcome, and then when you get into professional baseball, it doesn't stop. You don't just get there and now it's okay, cool, I've made it. Now it gets even harder. So, I think it's important for people to hear that though, because I think most people are under the assumption that, hey, these guys, you don't play that long and not just it's God given or it's natural or it's this or it's that. And it's like, no, you can work it. And I'll tell you, there's 2 guys that have come through our program right now in Bruce Zimmerman pitching for the Orioles. He's been training, a couple years at the facility, and I knew him back when he was in high school. And then, Spencer Horwitz just made his debut. Neither one of those guys jumped out in high school. If you said they were going to be major league players, you wouldn't have believed it. And that's not a knock on them by any means. That's a testament to them, listening to guys like you, listening to guys like Scott McGregor in the minor leagues. And Bruce comes out, talks to our kids, does some pitching camps when he's in town. And I'm going to tell you, they're all ears, as they should be. And I think that's, we talk about a separator. We got Brian Baker coming out on Tuesday to work with, about 60 pitchers. And we got Anthony Sanders and Jose Hernandez coming out on Wednesday, Oriole coaches. So to be able to give these kids access to those types of people to not just learn the game, but yeah, they can get a picture. They can get there's a fan side to it as well that I think is important because it just makes them, love the game even more. When I was a kid, going to meet Rick at FanFest, it's that part, those parts of baseball, those experiences, make you, just enjoy the game. And the more the kids enjoy it, the harder they're going to want to work. I mean, that's the reality of it. So we're trying to get them to just enjoy the game, find their routines and just kind of work the process. And it's amazing when you stick with it, what you can actually accomplish.
Yeah. Rick, any final words?
No, other than the fact that I'm amazed. I know that Matt's put together a couple of baseball facilities in the past, but it totally amazes me how he finds so many young kids to get interested in baseball in an area where you would never expect to be able to do the draw that this guy has. At getting these kids into a facility and teaching them the game of baseball, introducing them to true professionals who know the game, and putting a program together that at the end of it all, everybody has great things to say about the baseball warehouse. And that's what tells me that I'm on the right track because I want to teach the game of baseball. I want to be like a Matt Morris, that people look forward to being it with your facility and meeting a guy like Ryan Ripken, Cal Ripken's son, who knows the game very well, didn't make it to the big leagues, but spent a lot of time in the minor leagues with the Orioles. but Scott McGregor, who's been a big time starter at the major league level for quite a few years, and all the guys that we introduced to these young players have got a lot on the ball when it comes to communicating with people and teaching kids the game of baseball and having a lot of fun, no matter how far you want to take it. They can get into good programs in Little League, Pony League, and et cetera, good college programs, and be pretty good players in the future. You're going to start seeing that come out of these programs.
Yeah. I want to wish you all the best luck in the world. Before I do my shout out, how about you, Matt? Any final words?
Well, it's an honor to do it with Rick. I mean, Rick is one of the legendary names of Baltimore. I mean, even if you don't like baseball, you know who Rick Dempsey is. So, I've known Rick for a long time, and Rick's always supported us. And I'm appreciative of his trust in our vision, and I'm looking forward to doing this with him.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I've got to do a shout.
Well, thank you.
Well, not yet. I've got to do a shout out.
Okay.
So we are on our webcast. We primarily focus on Twitter and doing segments, basically, and getting those video views. But we were recently approached by two-a-days.com. Actually, I believe I approached them to say, hey, you know what? Why don't you put us on your website? We don't have a website. And two-a-days.com is kind of unique because it's really the only site of its kind where the players rate the college coaches that they play for or played for. It's a great place to see coach reviews, both good and bad, as well as get valuable recruiting information. It's a great resource. I'll say this, Matt and Rick. Rick's already seen some of them. Some of the reviews are hysterical. They're less than flattering, but some are, and they can be harsh, but some are pretty good. And it's supposed to be honest, so you make your own bed and you certainly sleep in it. But so that's two-a-days.com if you want to check them out. And I think we're on there somewhere. You could probably find us, and it's a great resource. Thank you again very much. Matt Morris, Rick, best of luck with the Rick Dempsey Baseball.
All right, Matty, I'll be talking to you, Matt.
Yeah, I'll see you in a couple of days, man. Thank you.
Still want to get you out here to California.
I'm doing it, man. All right.